I really, I don't know what to say. You guys are awesome. So the last video I asked about where I should live, and there's just scrolling through these. There's so many comments. It's really overwhelming, and so I guess I wanted to say thank you. I mean, really, it's really nice to see this. Yeah, I mean, it's like, in a weird way, I've felt this imposter syndrome. Like I don't feel like this is my channel, or I actually have this as my own platform. So it's like I'm watching it in third person with all the rest of you, or the audience, and it's just kind of surreal. It's like, wait a second, but that's mine. And anyway, weird. So thank you for all the recommendations, and all, from around the world, in the U.S. So I mean, it's like there's a lot to think about. I mean, I had a couple days to kind of just let this sink in, and the most reasonable thing that I see people talking about is, don't go move somewhere and live there, but rather travel around and see what resonates, and that makes sense to me. So by the way, it's been a while since I made a MEDCAST, which is, by the way, my nickname, or my name is Med. That's what my friends call me. So that's why it's called MEDCAST. It has nothing to do with medicine or med school. Yeah. Anyway, so I'd say, whip out your sketchbooks, grab some coffee, some tea, and scribble along. On screen is some footage of real-time pencil sketching. I posted the images already on Twitter and Instagram, so if you want to see those finalized, they're there. But yeah, it's somewhat Halloween themed because I love Halloween season. It's kind of festive, and it reminds me of autumn and fall and just candy. You know how it is. Anyway, so yeah, my plan, I guess, after the last video is to finish up my last semester teaching here. I actually have class today in a couple hours, so I have to prepare for that. So I'll be seeing the students today for the first class. But anyway, so while I'm finishing up teaching, I guess I'll figure out my plan for, traveling, right? So the idea is to get out there, travel, discover, meet people. And it's like, I was talking about, freelancing, because that kind of offers the ability to move around. But I guess I mentioned in the last video, with launching Patreon, which, by the way, it's like I guess I had one a long time ago, maybe 10 months ago, and I wrote on there hey, so I want to take a break. I need to figure out what I really want to do before I take your money. So I took everything off of there, and it's sort of dormant, but people still keep pledging. I'm like, there's nothing there. It's why are you giving me your money here? I'm not taking the money. It's just a pledge. So it's like, not until I give something will I receive the money. I'm not doing the month to month thing, but I'll be figuring that out. Anyway, so the ideal scenario would be to be totally funded through Patreon, from those who want to support this and receive extra content. I'll still be doing YouTube, obviously, but because for me, it's like it's ideal, because that way I won't be stuck doing freelance of things that aren't my own, and I'd be able to do my own thing for myself and share it with everyone. Because I'm sure, much like you, if you're an artist, you're here listening to this, there's so much I want to do. I want to learn. I feel like I'm still in the early stages of learning, right? I mean, you're never done learning. Even Norman Rockwell, at the age of 90, was still going to class to learn life drawing. So there's that. But storytelling, world building, concept design, illustration, and eventually rule the world. But that's a topic for another day. But sketches and paintings, I don't want to just do oh, hey, here's an illustration and watch the process, but rather I want to record this video, actual sketching, and show the behind the scenes. If it's not just a quick speed painting, which is a misnomer, or a time lapse painting. I'm trying to imagine what would I want if I was in the early stages of learning, and I had no one to kind of learn from, but if there was something, what would I want to see? And that's definitely sketches and explanations, and what to look at, reference, who am I being influenced by, and why am I making all these different decisions? So I'll be doing that, because I don't want to just take money for just for having a YouTube channel. I mean, like, if you want to support that, that's fine too. But I want to give something. I don't know. It's probably the part of me that's like really agreeable, or like I can't just take. I want to give something of equal value that is, you know, worthy. So anyway, it's a bit of a tangent. So aside from that, but yeah, you know, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully well. But yeah, I mean, I just want to spend time with my family. So I you know, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. Like I've been on the West Coast for like 10 years now. Well, maybe 9 years, and I don't know. I just haven't been home often enough. So what I want to do is like kind of travel, so snake around the West Coast towards the East, and then kind of land in Ohio, which is where my family is. And set up home base there for a while, and then like from there I'll start planning where I want to go around the world. God, it's really fun and exciting to think about, because I want those experiences to inform my art or whatever it is that I do, the storytelling. Because it's one thing to vicariously watch a movie and like Lord of the Rings and have that influence your art, but if you go out there, it's like there's something more. There's something firsthand and an experience that really affects the outcome of your work. So that's what I want. That's what we all want, don't we? So anyway, so I'll do a road trip, check out some art schools, maybe some museums and other recommendations. It's really exciting, and I'm really thankful for all your recommendations. I mean, there's a lot of common ones. I think the most common one people are recommending is Japan, which is, I've been there before. It was lovely. I'd love to go back. So, and I remember talking to my Japanese friend here who I went to Art Center with, and he brought up the idea. He's like, you know, if you want, you could teach at an art school in Japan in English. It's not a big deal. They would love to learn from you. So I'm like, oh, maybe. So that, who knows? I'm going to make a huge whiteboard list of ideas, and sort of see what sticks. But I much like with art, you can't predict the outcome until you just do. So anyway, so it'd be cool to like stop at art schools and do talks to students and do Q&As, because I mean, it's one thing to answer questions on here, but to see the person, because I'm just looking at pixels. I guess you have an icon, and I'm kind of just scrolling through the comments. It's like I wish I just saw you, each and every one of you, not at the same time. That'd be stupidly overwhelming, but face to face allows me, because you get to see me, but I don't get to see you. So it'd be cool to see everyone in person, one way or another. Anyway, so regarding art, like I've been on quite a journey, as you may know, of a lot of, I'd say, ups and downs, and I think we all go through this. And I think in the last 2 years, maybe a year and a half, I've been sort of trying to address that on a personal level for myself. And I had to take a step back, which is why I had like such a long break of doing YouTube videos. What was it, like 3 months and then 4 months and a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there, because I just need to I needed to step back and analyze, because I was being pulled into directions that I didn't like. For example, if you're interested in making a channel or Instagram or like getting a platform which would require its own video, you might end up like I did, where I was distracted by assumptions that, oh, if you want to be successful, you have to do fan art, you have to do this drawing, you have to blah blah blah, right? And so I was stuck in this, like, I don't know, if you just scroll through my Instagram, you could see it's just like, okay, pretty fairy girl after pretty fairy girl, which I like doing, but it took the fun out of it, because then it became, oh yeah, I know I could get like way more likes if I do this, but I'm starting to discover what gets the most attention and resonant feelings, whatever, is when you show your authentic self. Like I did this one post of a little caricature of myself with a bunch of word bubbles all around me, and it's like it's just me right there looking miserable, and then a bunch of word bubbles asking, how do you draw anime? Please, tutorial face, please hold my hand, do everything for me, make everything easy for me. And it's frustrating, by the way, to get so many tutorial requests, especially on things that are already out there. And the follow-up on that was like, well, I want to see how you do it, and I'm like, I got to do my own thing. So anyway, but that was pretty resonant. Like, it got so many comments, and it was a simple thing. It took like 10 minutes, but something that something I'd say that is impure, or maybe like a facade, or something that doesn't represent what I really want to do. It might get a lot of likes, but you can tell. You can look at it and say, yeah, there's skill there, and it shows that you can render a face, but there's no substance. And so I guess my journey was chasing that idea, like, what is the substance, like, for me? And for your journey, it's the same thing. It's going to be a chase. So I digress. The last year and a half, as I was saying, I've been trying to figure that out. So I say that the key to that, if you're also in a struggle, is to write. And I don't mean like just write fantasy or fan fiction or whatever, but rather address the things that you're dealing with as they're happening. If, for example, I could add, like, my recent sketchbooks, probably my last 3 sketchbooks, is mostly just words. Like, when people ask to see my sketchbook, I'm like, yeah, sure, just don't read anything, just look at the few drawings in between. But it's writing. It's like, for example, if I take my Wacom pen, right, and I'm moving it to my tablet, like, what I used to feel was this sort of program activate, and it activates anxiety, pressure, under expectations, and whatever. So I'll be like, okay, all right, I caught it. I can see what's happening. So I'm like, okay, let's put this down. I grab my sketchbook, or I open up a PSD file and write it out, or a WordPad, whatever. Anything that you can put that idea and then look at it objectively. Whiteboards are great too, so I do it everywhere. So I'll be like, okay, why do I feel anxiety? Why do I feel pressure? Where are these expectations coming from? So I'll actually write out, like, okay, well, the expectations come from the YouTube audience, or Instagram, or ArtStation, and because those are there, I have to do this, and that. And if I don't do this, and that, then I'll disappoint. And so, like, it'll start with that, and 20 minutes in, it becomes this huge, like, word bubble map of all these different things that are connected to that. And it's like, I'm like sweating when I'm doing this, and like frustrated and whatever, and then it's like I get to step back and look at it and say, okay, I can see what's happening, and I can see it as if it's like code of a program, right? And then from there, it's like, okay, that's the problem. What would a solution be? As if I'm kind of helping someone else. It's kind of third person at this point. Say, okay, well, that's the problem. It's kind of silly. It doesn't make sense. And I would write out the solution. Like, okay, well, that's, if the problem at that time, which I've kind of got over this, was functioning under expectations of the audience, the solution would be, okay, what would it be like if I didn't function under the expectations of the audience? Would I still survive? If I did that, would I die? It's like, when you see the extremes of it, you see how silly it is. And so sometimes I actually had to write specific people's names. It's like, okay, this person when I was 5 bullied me and judged me, and so because of that, I'm whatever. Actually, so here's a story of that. It's funny. So that Wacom thing where I put my pen and feel anxiety. After writing it, it goes away the next day. I promise you. It's like, if you address your problems as they come, which there are a lot. It took me like a year and a half of daily just dealing with one faulty program after another. So the story about another story is like, it stemmed from, okay, I refuse to do beautiful art. I refuse to do art that looks good. Okay, why? It's like, so I wrote that out. I was like, why? I don't understand. What is wrong with me? And so I was like, okay, well, when was the last time I did a piece of art that I was super excited about? And so I was like digging back, and just the first thought that comes is like, okay, yeah, I remember I was 8, no, I was like more like, no, I was like 11 or 12. And at that time, I would do a lot of drawings from like video game manuals, like StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo. Like I would just open those up, and it was such a blast. I would just sit there, put some music on, and draw. It was probably the last time it was just a pure, authentic expression of like, hey, I love this. I'm going to draw this. And I think it was the cover of Diablo or something that I did this. There was a drawing of a demon, and I did my own version of it, and it was like this, portrait on a piece of paper, and I was super proud of it, and I was so excited. I'm like, this, and that for me at the time was the standard, the bar. I'm like, this is beautiful. And I remember I was like, showing my dad, and he's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And like I showed other people, and I remember going outside, and my neighbors were out, and we'd always hang out, like the local kids. We'd play basketball or whatever. And anyway, so this one dude, I'm sure he's great now, but at the time I just want to punch him. He was back in my backyard. I'm like, oh dude, I want to show you this drawing I did. He's like, really? Is that so? Not in that tone of voice, but that was the kind of thing I felt. I'm like, yeah, I just did it. So isn't that cool? So I handed it to him, and the look in his eyes was like, you could tell like he recognized that it was good. And then he just, this big evil grin smile. He looked at me, crumpled it up, and threw it and ran. And so I chased him for a second, and I couldn't find him, and he was like hiding in my garage, and he bolted again. I'm like, dude, what the I remember in that moment, like I was teary-eyed. I was like, why? How could anyone do this? Why would you do that to somebody's art? Why would you? What's wrong with you? And of course, in retrospect, I understand the functions of human personality. It's like, okay, there's envy. There's certain things that people will resent you for if you succeed or do something that leaves them feeling inadequate. They'll tear you down. They'll try to tear you down, which is crabs in a bucket. Google that if you don't know what that means. But and so I guess in that moment, my mind programmed, okay, you could do art, but don't do anything that exceeds something that's worthy of praise, because people will tear it down. And so it was such a powerful, impactful emotion in that moment that it told me, never again will you do or show good art. And so and that was something, I guess I tackled that one, I guess maybe like 3 or 4 months ago, and I wrote it out. And once I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, there it is. It's like I've been doing mediocre art on purpose for a long time, preventing myself and hindering myself from accessing that pure thing, because going there meant pain or like emotional hurt. And so that's an example of something that comes up. So to this day, things still come up. Like today I had to tackle, actually I wrote it in my sketchbook, not being able to think or focus when I'm here, which is partly why I want to move out. But because when I'm at a coffee shop, I can think clearly, all my ideas come really well, and even the idea to do this podcast, I wrote this all out there. So come here. So I addressed that, and I'm a little bit better now, but I still want to get the hell out of here. But so for you, it's like if you're taking on the art journey, definitely face the problems head on as they come. Do it now so that later you're free. You're like, that's the whole point, right? You want to have authentic self-expression. Doing art isn't, at least true art. And for you, it might mean something different than it means for me. But true art is whatever your core is, whatever that is that you have deep down that you love, that the things that you do, expressing that, regardless of what other people think, regardless of all the filters that you've built. For example, my filter was not only that moment where that kid crumpled my art up, but rather there was like so many filters. Like there's the core of what I am, and we have this when we're young, and we kind of build walls around it based on our upbringing. And it's like I have this idea of what I want to do, but I can't get there because of the filters. And so addressing those filters one by one, day after day. Just, maybe your dad says something. Maybe some other kid was better than you at art. Or like you saw something online that said, don't do that or don't do this. You have to address them and take the responsibility to do it yourself. Like I'm not going to come hold your hand. No one will. Like imagine doing that and strengthening yourself and being a powerful person that way, because what you fix on the inside is going to be reflected on the outside. Like your art is a reflection of you, right? So we're getting a bit philosophical here, but and so where am I getting all this? Like, am I just making this stuff up? No, some of it I'm like kind of discovering on my own, but and I've mentioned this before, and I definitely plan to do videos specifically on this. But Dr. Jordan Peterson, who is tenured professor at University of Toronto, psychology. He's a clinician, and he's just a profound genius, I think. And so watching his videos, and I watched him go from like a few thousand subscribers to almost 500,000 now, and so his talks and lectures on creativity, on personality, on agreeableness, like why creative people do things, and if they don't be creative, they wither on the inside and just crumble, and just like one thing after another. And like the bottom line is, like, whoever you are, you got to sort yourself out. And there's the joke that goes around, because he says, clean your room. And it's like, okay, well, that's easy. Is it really, though? Because your room is a reflection of what your mind is. If your room's a mess, then you're probably a mess too. And so what I found was, okay, whatever. So I cleaned my room up. It was like, okay, it was good, right? But it didn't stay that way. And so it got really messy really fast. And it just went right back to how messy it was before. But as I was doing these whiteboard sessions and writing and just, figuring out these things, I was sorting myself out, sorting out the problems I've had. Like, why don't I take care of my room? It's like, because I expected other people to do it for me, and like just so many other things too, not just cleanliness. But as I sorted myself out, the more things were organized in my mind, and the more I uninstalled bad programs that were messing me up, the cleaner my room got naturally, and it stayed that way. So whatever state of mind you are in, your surroundings will be congruent to that. It'll be equal to that. So solving those things will solve your exterior things as well. And looking around, yeah, my bed is made, my clothes are hung up, there's not crap all over the floor. It's just nice, right? And it's more relaxed to, I guess, be in. And Jordan Peterson says that it's sort of a representation of like the kingdom of heaven in that case. I mean, not everybody's like religious. I am religious, and I don't really talk about that, but you don't need to be religious to understand these themes, because it's just psychology. Anyway, so if you establish self-awareness that way, and you look at yourself as if you're looking at your friend who you're helping, you can sort of see what their problems are. You're like, well, if only they did this. You say that same thing about yourself with self-compassion. You don't destroy yourself and be a tyrant, but rather you do your best to treat yourself like somebody who you want to help, to aim to some kind of higher good or higher purpose. It's certainly better than, in a stagnant, messy life and in a messy room and just withering away. So that's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, sort of sorting myself out. And he's one of the few people who I support on Patreon because of the profound changes I've had in my life because of him. And so I don't know, it's like you should see my sketchbooks. They're just writing words and graphs and like figuring things out, and so it's been good. It's a tough journey because you have to be willing to face failure, right? Going into darkness, and his explanations of dragons is great, because we manifest our, I guess, worst enemies, the things that we're ignoring, as dragons waiting in the shadows or something. So you address them and face the dragon with the archetypal story of the hero doing something about it, and that's your job. That's what we have to do as artists, or just as people, even if you're not an artist. And so writing a lot, every frustration, every breakdown, every low point. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. There's a lot of, obviously, celebrities, YouTubers, and whatever. And you might watch their channels. It's like, hey, welcome to my channel. I have an awesome life. I am perfect. They're not. And that's not. And if anything, it's like, cool, man, but, who are you really? And so the ideal thing is that every single person in the world expresses themselves authentically without that mask of, oh, I need to pretend to be perfect and things like that. So anyway, that's kind of quite a tangent. So anyway, it's like magic, man. Just write out your problems, come up with a solution as if you're helping somebody else, and the next day it's gone. We think it's supposed to take years and years of profound something, some kind of epiphany or experience, but really you just have to look at the problem, write it out, and look at it objectively, and just be like, okay, all right. Another way I do that, by the way, is because sometimes when I'm doing the drawing or a painting, it'll come up, this kind of automatic mental projection simulation of what people are going to think, the MPS I call it, and it'll say things like, oh, it's not good enough, it won't be good enough, it's not as cool as that other artist's work, it's not even close, that other artist makes way more money, so they're better than you, therefore you're worthless. Like, all these things come up. It's like, oh, you think you're going to use reference? Yeah, you cheater. Or, oh, you're going to use a Wacom pen? Oh, you cheater. Or, oh, you're not going to use a handicap? You should use a mouse, otherwise you're not original. Like, it's like all these ridiculous, dumb thoughts projecting and saying all these things because the program is trying to stop me from moving, right? And it's the MPS, the mental projection simulation. We all have it. We can visualize a little bit into the future. It's good when you're trying to avoid like a pit of snakes. Like, yeah, if I fall into that pit of snakes, I'll be poisoned or bitten or something. But that when it comes to art, it misleads you. At least it misled me to keep me in the comfort zone to don't do art. You're not good enough. You're not going to succeed. You're just going to experience pain and failure, and people will crumple up your art and throw it out, right? So addressing that is really, really profound. So as I'm drawing or doing a painting, I'll have another canvas open, like the negativity box. As those things come, like I'm like, okay, here's the negativity. It's coming. All right, cool. But this time I can see it coming and I can address it. I'm like, oh, there you are. All right, I was waiting for you. Like, let's do this. What do you got for me today, you idiot? Because it doesn't know what it's doing. And so whatever it says, I write it out. I have a huge list. Like, I have PSDs of like all the ridiculous, horrible things that my mind is telling me, like, based on, I guess, programming from my artistic journey, if you will. And so as I'm drawing, I'll write them out, and then they just never come back again. It'll eventually, like, I'm at a point where it's just less and less, but there's still things coming in. But I just feel so much more free. Like, I can't imagine trying to do all this without ever addressing any of the problems that I've been, dealing with. I would just be a mess. I would be just frantic and anxiety-ridden and neurotic. It just would be not good. Anyway, so watch all of Jordan Peterson's videos, especially on... I highly recommend his breakdown of The Lion King. He talks about the story arc and how the characters represent, archetypes in our own life, and how we see that as something to aspire, like the hero's journey and that stuff. He also does it for Pinocchio, and I wish he would do it for The Matrix. That would be awesome, because that's not only my favorite movie, but that's one of the movies that really changed. It was like a pivot in my life that things I just saw things differently, and it was just such an awesome movie. I remember dressing up as Neo for Halloween with the glasses and like the trench coat. I'm like, yeah, I'm Neo. No. Anyway, so definitely check those out. Dr. Jordan Peterson. So I have a playlist of his things called Get Smart, and I don't know if I think it's public, and it's the different bits and pieces of his lectures that Jordan Peterson, I was going to call him JP, that I think are conducive to progress as not just a human being but also as an artist. Like his talks on creativity are profound. Anyway, so that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today, and hopefully that's hopefully this has been recording. Oh, thank God. That would have sucked. Anyway, a couple of things that I want to add. I am making a new website, working on it, thanks to the help from my friend Sammy Numi, and it's just my name, ahmedaldoori.com, and it's under construction mostly. I'm going to be uploading a bunch of new art and painting sketches and just an idea of what I want to kind of pursue. But the section that's available now is a section I call charts. So you can actually check that out. It's just, there's a tab at the top. And these are just different charts that I've been doing. It's kind of part of the whiteboarding writing process. It's like I'll have an idea. It's like, okay, what is happening with creativity? What does that look like visually? And what is influencing my creativity? Is it music, games, specific experiences? And what comes out at the other end? And okay, well, what if we look at that differently? It's like, okay, what if my art is influenced by a bunch of negativity? What happens? Failure, right? So, and it's like from these failures you rise as the what's it called? The phoenix, right? So, you kind of learn from your mistakes, but I like to chart them out, and not just that, but also different charts, breaking down the differences of the emotions of like what you go through for a story. So I have a movie chart, and it goes through all the little emotions, positive and negative, that happen in movies. And so I picked movies that I liked, ranging from Miyazaki to like Disney movies and Aladdin. I'll take screenshots of moments and say, okay, well, that fits in the part where things are really difficult and there's an all is lost moment, there's a lot of destruction, or there might be a part where there's a lot of love and some kind of feeling of comfort, like The Shire. So I'll put that in the row that says comfort. There's a couple other charts. Actually, let me pull it up right now on my screen. Ahmedaldoori.com charts. Inspiration. Like what happens when you feel inspiration? So like it's not lasting, right? So you might feel inspired by something and you're excited and you start doing it, but then there's a drop-off zone, right? And then you don't feel like doing that thing anymore. And so that's a problem, right? And some of these charts are kind of messy, but I'm sure you can figure it out. You're all smart, right? And so that's the problem. What's the solution? The solution is to keep going and develop a work ethic that isn't dependent on motivation or inspiration. So, continuing working and just doing it anyway, and these are all things that I'm also picking up from, not just like my experiences, but what Jordan Peterson talks about. There's a style chart on like realism, to stylized realism, proportions, the emotion spectrum. Like the idea, like when you do a piece of art, you want to, at least I think, I'm kind of figuring this out, you want to feel something first, right? You want, like, if you pull up the emotion chart, the one that has the Zelda on top of the chart, when I think of Ocarina of Time and I listen to the music, I feel that sense of exploration, different worlds, the Lost Woods, Kokiri Forest, that's my favorite area. You feel that like otherworldliness, right? So the idea is to feel that, let that kind of be in your surroundings, and let that inform your art if you want to do something that's related to that, right? And so feel it, then make art, right? And then I have a couple other ones, like Doom, by the way, great game. I still have to finish it. The new one, 2016, the music soundtrack is friggin' awesome. I actually use it to work out, especially BFG Division, great songs. Like, anyway, so when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, I just want to run and just like punch something, right? So if I want to do a piece of art that's like combat, or like, killing a demon, or like some sort of action scene, I'll listen to that, or like play the game for a little bit, then like jump into the music and then start drawing. Or like something, I have a Holly Henry on there. She's a YouTube she's another YouTuber. She sings, and like her voice is so sultry and and just almost otherworldly. So when I listen to that, it like kind of resonates in a particular frequency in your heart, right? So that makes me feel something else. So it's like these are the emotions, and you try to find something that makes you feel it at a level of 10, right? Or 7 to 10, and then let that inform your art, as opposed to informing your art with negative emotions. Now, of course, like anger, depression, anxiety, and all this stuff, it's like you could still make art out of that. I mean, like, look at heavy metal. Like, a lot of that is expression of like sometimes anger, sometimes aggression, or just like in the mode, like something primal. So that could certainly be it. But if you are, like I said, overtaken by anxiety and like things like that, try to address it like the way I talked about. Address it, let it subside, so that what you're left with is the stuff that you love, which is it's different for everybody. But anyway, thanks again. I'm really appreciative of the comments, especially I think it was Lucas's comment. Because I remember in the last video I was apologizing for the video not being a tutorial, and so he's like, dude, I'm not on your channel just for the drawing, but because of your personality, and so things like that. And I'm like, that actually does really mean a lot to me, because I was under this impression, this is something that I was writing out, that if I do YouTube, I have to be giving free content, otherwise people will hate me, or people will unsubscribe and say, screw you, why isn't this a free tutorial on how to do everything absolutely for free? Why are you even here? So addressing that there's so many things in my blind spots that I don't even know. It's like, so this really helped point it out for me. So really thank you. And hopefully this is definitely a turning point for me. Like I want to really move forward and aim high, and so okay, aside from that, thanks for listening in. Hopefully how long was this? Wow, I really thought it would go to a whole hour, so I guess not. But yeah, thank you, and I'll certainly be updating and sharing more information. I do want to launch Patreon soon, so look forward to that. Aside from that, like, damn, like I got nothing. I got this Overwatch hat, so that's pretty cool. I don't know what to say anymore. That was let me just say it is good to get all this off my chest and just kind of express it authentically, if you will. So all right, well, I hope you all have a good day, night, morning, whatever it might be, and stay tuned for the next one. All right, see you guys.